it there?
Just 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
2:30 in the afternoon. And who's here at the earliest time for your time zone? We have any of the Californians here? I doubt it. Poor folks.
Waking up.
Maybe Susan H. What time is it there, Susan H? 7:30. I read your lips.
7:30 here.
Do we
I
have
think
Marianne with us? No,
Not yet.
I think she's from more Western time, a slower time zone, slow time. I'm not saying that right, am I?
It's 5:30 here.
Okay,
Oh!
there you win the prize.
Oh my
Earliest.
goodness, that's amazing that you're awake.
Hey, you look so wide awake, an early bird.
Well, what do you think, Jessica? I know more people will be tumbling in.
I think we can go ahead and get started. So we're ready for 9.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Day 2 of the BTS Center's Convocation. Jessica, I saw you last night. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. In the few hours that it has been since we've been together, I had a great day yesterday, and I got to do a little debrief with the BTS Center team and rave about our online companions and how wonderful and special yesterday was. So, and I slept great. The night before, I have to tell you all, I had a dream that it was like one of those classic dreams where they started early and I was somehow like getting dressed and my shirt got stuck and like I couldn't get out of my shirt and I was late. And so, but last night I slept great. So how are you,
That's
Peterson?
good. I'm doing well. I actually woke up at my normal time, like at 5 a.m. and I was like, are you crazy? You're gonna go back to sleep because I just knew it was gonna be a long day. So I slept for an extra 2 hours today. So I even put an orange shirt on. This may be the first and last time I wear the color orange. We'll see. Uh, but I'm doing well, thank you. And I'm so excited to be here. And I had so much fun last night with the YouTube Film Festival. It was an experiment, and we'll make sure that even if you weren't there, you'll get a link to all the videos that we saw. I put some highlights in the email last night that I sent out. Well, you want to hear about what's happening today? I will tell you our what's happening. At 9, we're going to go into the main session and we're going to hear some more stories. But the exciting thing is one of the stories will be coming from the Zoom. You will see a new face. You see a new face right here. Tawny is in Virginia at the moment and is joining us for the storytelling portion to tell a story. And it's our gift to the main group there in Maine. So they're not, so they get something from us. So it's going both ways. In fact, at about 9, Jessica's going to run off to the main room and they're going to say hi to us and we'll all be on the screen and we can wave and carry on like that so they can see how awesome we are. Then we'll hear the stories and we'll reflect amongst ourselves. And then we're going to break at 10:30 just before our second spiritual accompaniment circle.
Creative immersion, really more.
Is it more
And
creative immersion? That's when you're going to do your art project, right?
Yes, we're going to do some drawing. Art project may be a slight over exaggeration of what we'll be doing, but just a reminder, if you have a couple pieces of paper and whatever you might like to draw, illustrate with, as I will tell you then, I am the world's worst creative, so there's no talent needed for this.
Oh, that's
But
good.
no no skills needed. So we'll do that beginning around 11. And then we will break for lunch, probably between 12:15 we'll break. And then we will come back and Nicole Dieroff is going to join us for a conversation. So I know that she's planning to share some things that the BTS Center has coming up as a follow-up to Convocation, which you may all be interested in, given our conversation yesterday around stories. And then after that, we kind of head into the the home stretch. So we'll do a little bit more reflecting, processing here as a group on kind of our main takeaways from Convocation and from our community. And then we'll zoom into the live closing gathering at 3. So that is our plan for today. And just a note that don't log off as when they say goodbye in the main room, because we'll do a quick goodbye to our online friends. So we'll come back here and do our own little farewell, probably about 3:30, and then we'll be done.
So as a reminder, we talked about some online guidelines that Jessica's going to put in the chat. Pretty
Yeah.
basic stuff. And don't forget to check out the online resource document. I've been sending it every time I send an email, but we'll also put it in the chat. That's where you're going to find all the videos from yesterday, and then the ones from today will be up probably by the end of the day. And there's other things you'll find there, resources and all kinds of things. And it looks like we have a few minutes before things kick off in the main room. So I wanted to do a little bit of a morning check-in. So please, if you can, write in the chat, what is one thing in your line of sight that brings you joy or comfort this morning?
Mm.
Something in your line of sight that gives you joy or comfort this morning. I'll put that in the chat. Chickadees. I was seeing that from my side eye. At first, I thought it was like chickpeas. I'm like, yeah, chickpeas. Coffee. Coffee. Well done. Oh,
Cat,
kitty.
grass.
Nice. Orchids in the winds. Mm-hmm.
Oh, a blue jay and a cardinal. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Amazing. Is that a big bird feeder, Mary Colleen, that they're sharing? Or
No, I have many bird feeders, but there's one that's open and it's not that big, but I put peanuts in it along with sunflower seeds. So it's the coveted one. And usually those two fight, but they're together right now.
wow, it was the peanuts.
There is hope in this world for peace.
That's right. That's a good inspiration.
How many of you have bird feeders that you put out? How many of you have squirrels that go to the bird feeders? It's like that for everything. They have those like squirrel proof ones, but I had to tell you, they're pretty good, those folks, those squirrels.
They're smart.
They are. I never bother them though when they're drinking water. You know, like they're drinking water, I'm going to let them be. But as soon as they go to the seed, I'm like, they know me now. All right, so we got some trees where the leaves are turning red. The sun is up in the sky without being hidden by the clouds. Oh, that's pretty, Jane. And the yellow and gold leaves are shining. Yeah, I'll bet it's getting full fall there. It's just starting here in Pennsylvania.
Feel like we've
Uh,
had a little bit of a late foliage this, or maybe
mm.
last year felt very early to me, like the leaves were off the trees. It felt like by the end of October, which is way too soon for me, but it's still beautiful. And I feel like there's still a lot of greenery, maybe less so in Maine than Rhode Island.
So I'm aware that yesterday we ended the day with some pretty intense scenarios about extreme weather and how things would be affected. And I didn't talk to you, Jim, about this in advance, but I know that you had something you wanted to share at that time. You may not want to share it now, but I've been thinking a lot about Texas because of that flooding incident. Everyone heard about it, but as a Red Cross volunteer, we got a lot of requests to go down there and assist. And we didn't have time for you to speak, but would you be willing to share a little bit this morning because we've got a little time now?
Sure, I would love to. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Perfect.
Good, okay. Yeah, those rivers are just to the west of us here. And in fact, one of them runs a little bit south of us also. And they are delightful places. They're one of the most popular places in the state. It's called the Texas Hill Country. And July 4th, people were camping. There are a lot of summer camps for kids, old ones that have been there for more than 100 years, one of them extremely expensive. And they had built new buildings a few years ago in the floodplain, and 17 little girls from that camp were lost. 100 around 130, 38 or 39 people were killed. And the complicated thing about it is the scenario that you talked about was having rains for weeks and floods coming and so forth. This one came overnight in the middle of the night, and it was one of those rain bombs that you talked about, and that's common in this area. This is called Flash Flood Alley. The topography and the nearness to the Gulf and things like that all conspire to make this a very flood prone area. In 1985, there was a flood on that river, the Guadalupe River, that killed a bunch of people. Same thing. Yet we forgot about that. We build in the floodplain. We let people build houses in the floodplain, put campgrounds in the floodplain. And the scenario that you were conducting was a proper one. How do you respond to these things? And yet, the bigger issue is how do you prevent them? Because people love water. If you've got land with what they call live water running through it, other words, land on a running river, it's very expensive because people just love the rivers. But rivers are dangerous. I've spent my life teaching and writing about people and rivers, and rivers are they're not kind things. They have a floodplain for a purpose. And if we say, "Oh, I want to be near the river, I'm going to build in that floodplain," you're building right in a place where the river is said, "I'm going to go there. That's my floodplain." Sorry about the telephone there. And so it's a long-term thing, and I think it is though it's the responsibility of people like us to try to help us understand that we are residents of a very complex planet. Our home is very complex, and we can't just treat it with impunity. We need to know how it works, and need to live within that knowledge. And we don't know. Well, we do know how it works. The public does not. The scientists know how it works, but we've had trouble communicating that in an effective way to the people. And I think it really is a spiritual issue. I spent 7 months last year developing an online vision quest program called Seeking Wisdom to Build a Better World. And I have a lot of this stuff built into it, but it's complex. These are just, you don't just say, okay, we're going to pass a law to keep people from building in the floodplain. No, that's not possible, not that easily. So anyway, that's my sermon. I've spent my life talking about this, Peterson. So I'll stop here.
I appreciate it, and I woke up this morning with a great deal of gratitude for you and for everyone that signed up for this online convocation. I'm grateful, and folks who are watching on the video later on, I'm grateful, A, that you showed up and signed up and are watching, but also, you have a lifetime of service that you've done, and I'm so grateful for all the work that you've done. And I know that we're all being stretched right now by climate change because these are all new, bigger scenarios. But for many of you, it's not your first rodeo. I mean, you've faced all kinds of crises before, and you have a wealth of knowledge and skills. And I'm just grateful that you're here, that you're learning, that you're willing to struggle with these issues because they're not easy issues, and we are up against a lot, and it takes a lot of strength and resilience, and the world needs you right now more than ever before.
Mm. Yeah.
Thank you. That goes for all of us here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was
Thank
struck
you all.
yesterday by how many of you have had real life experiences. Like these were not hypothetical scenarios. These were very real. Peterson and I were chatting and we could kick off a whole a whole number of scenarios that you all actually have been on the front lines with. So it's very real. And the work is so important. I think back to, I think it was Carol brought up, how do we think about the work? What do we call it? But, how much does it matter? Is it the right things to do? But I think it's just so critically important, that spiritual aspect and caring for people, which is what you all do at its core. We have a few more minutes. Is there anything, so, switching gears a little bit, I'm gonna go say hello in a few minutes to our in-person attendees. Is there anything I should say or represent on your behalf, our online companions? Any messages you'd like me to communicate to the in-person group?
Do they send snacks?
If you could see the pile of of like plates and glasses and everything I have right next to me. I've been snacking my way through this experience.
No, I think you're going to do fine. I will wave furiously.
Yes,
Tawny, I don't know if you
please.
can hear me if you walked away, but if you're available, we'd love to get to know you a little bit. Tawny is going to be one of the 3 storytellers this morning, but what's unique is Tawny's going to be in the Zoom, zooming in from Virginia and zooming into the main room there at the in-person convocation. So when Tawny comes back, we'll hopefully get to chat with her, but definitely you'll get to hear her story. She'll be the 3rd speaker.
And I know that she's at work, so she did mention she was have to. Oh, Jean. Good
I
morning.
just thought of something last night when those of us that were doing the film thing, I told you guys that I had gone to my favorite restaurant, which was only a few minutes from my house. And so I'm going to be telling them that when I get back, because they always love publicity. And Jessica, you put something about that in the chat. But that would, it's just a little thing, but speaking of food, it's really helpful, even for us. I'm at home, but we have to eat too. So anyway, thank you for the publicity of that restaurant.
Oh, it sounded great. Yeah, for those of you who were not with us, Jane gave a nice shout out to a local restaurant that sounded fabulous. So I had to check out the website and the menu. And it was called Bethel.
Best.
Best in Bethel.
Better
Best.
in Bethel.
Oh.
And it's a takeoff on a restaurant not owned by the same people, but in Boston that's called Better in Boston. Now, Boston's a big city and Bethel only has people, so it's not the same.
Good morning, Tawny. We were just talking about you and thought maybe we have a few minutes if you'd like to introduce yourself to the online companions. They'll be tumbling in over the next few minutes.
Okay, sure. I am Tony White. I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse over 20 years. I work in behavioral medicine. I'm a forensics nurse, which is, where I am now. So I got to be a little secretive about exactly where I am. But I'm at work here in Staunton, Virginia. I am originally from the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area of Virginia, and I currently live in North Carolina. A recent grad of Princeton Theological Seminary. I have my master's, my second master's from them in theology and ecology. And so right now my focus is just putting my healthcare piece together with the spiritual piece and the ecological piece and focusing on how we can improve the health of marginalized communities with theological principle.
Oh.
Amazing.
Can you give us any teaser about your story today? Can you give us a teaser about your story today?
Yeah, I'm just going to talk about food and just my journey from scarcity to abundance with that.
Ooh, that sounds great. Could you tell us what is a forensic nurse?
You said why?
What is a forensic nurse? I don't actually know what
Oh,
that.
forensic nursing is just like the intersection between healthcare and the legal system. So my patients are mostly, well, not mostly, but my patients are those that have committed some type of crime that may have been due to some type of mental illness. So
Wow,
that's what I do. Yeah, working with
amazing.
those folks, mostly that I've been working with for like the past decade or so is not guilty by reason of insanity. Those people that have committed some type of
Wow.
crime, but the legal system has determined that they were not um, cannot be held legally responsible due to a mental illness. So that's who I work with. But yeah, all of my patients have either committed some type of crime or have been the victim of such. But it's the intersection between healthcare and the legal system.
Wow.
How did you land at that particular intersection? Was that something you had always wanted to do, or I mean, it's a very
No, I didn't.
specific.
Didn't
Yeah.
even really know that it existed. I've been in behavioral medicine, which is the same as mental health psychiatry. So that is what I've been doing for over 20 years. And as you are taking care of those patients, you end up in places like this or other places. If it's like someone's admitted through the emergency room and then they get evaluated and assessed, and then you realize what their real problem is. So you get them treatment versus punishment. So what I lean more towards is being therapeutic and rehabilitation versus being punitive and them going to the justice system, jail system. So there, it's more treatment on my end versus punishment.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow,
Amazing.
and your new master's degree, your new advanced degree in environmentalism or ecology and theology, is that correct?
Theology and ecology from Princeton Theological Seminary in New
Yeah.
Jersey. So yeah, I've been working on that and just um, learning more about how to heal the physical body through the things that the creator has already provided versus Western synthetic medications.
Hmm. Wow, that's fascinating.
Amazing.
Wow, lovely. Wow, we can have a whole convocation with you as as
I
our
know.
speaker. You cover so many things that we're passionate about. Wow.
Mm.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of interest. And Tawny, yesterday, we had our first 4 storytellers who were amazing. I think it was probably the highlight of the day. Just incredible people and incredible stories. And so everyone is really eager and very is here supporting you in all the ways that we
Yeah, I
can.
appreciate that. I appreciate that because I'm not a public speaker, kind of someone that's like in the background, but I was asked to do it and I was very honored to be asked to do it. So like, why not go ahead and jump head first in and see what happens. But
Yeah,
honored to have been asked, but yeah, little bit of nerves, but I think I'll be
of
okay.
course. Well, we're
Well,
right
we'll
here
be
with you.
rooting for you. Yeah.
All right, Peterson, I'm gonna head over to the big room. So see you all on the other side.
Okay, we'll see once they get going. We'll just chit chat until then. Or I'm a Quaker, so we can sit quietly. I don't know how many times I could use that joke, but there it is again. I have a bird feeder. I have it right outside the kitchen door. It's like goes off into a patio, and the birds can't see me because of how the shades are. But I'm super close to them. I'm like less than 3 feet away, so I can really watch them up close. And my favorite is the Carolina wren. The Carolina wren is so adorable, and it's usually by itself. It likes to go on the ground, and it's got these really cool markings with like black eyebrows. I want to give it a name, but I'm waiting. And Pete and Dee there in South Africa, they got me hooked on birding because we would go to different places and they can sit for like 2 hours just sitting watching birds, and they got me into the rhythm. Except they're pretty extreme. Like we'll start at like 6 in the morning and go until 2 when I'm with them, and I don't have the stamina.
It's the start of our summer here, and the first birds are returning from the northern hemisphere. So it's to hear the new calls as they arrive back. It's like old friends returning from a trip. and all the bush is turning green. It really is a wonderful time of year as we enter into summer.
All right, and with that, it looks like Convocation is convocating. I'm gonna spotlight this and gonna unmute them or ask them
Today,
to
in
unmute.
addition to Fred, we offered Leon blessings as he headed back home. He needed to head back home. So today we're up with Fred. We're super excited about that. And indeed, we're going to start the morning with some song.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Well, some of you know it. How many of you have sung this song before? Raise your hands. Now, of y'all, the people who raise your hands, how many of you are not Unitarian Universalists? Cool. Okay. Just checking. Just checking. Well, this is a wonderful round, which we will sing as a round, but let's get the melody, the unison part down solid. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. This is by Philip A. Porter. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Please rise in body or in spirit. Get some spiritu inside your lungs. Here we go. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. One more time together. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Beautiful. I'm going to divide you right down the middle, kind of like Donald Trump, but no malice. Everybody on my right, your left, you'll be the first part to go, and we will be the second part over here. I'll start you both out, and it'll be loads of fun. What was I going to say? Anything else? Right. So when we were going to come in is after just that first line, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, bang, and then we start with gathered over here. Okay, let's do this. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered. And again, gathered here in gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gather it, draw near. Spirit, draw near. I think Spirit has drawn near. Thank you so much. Have a seat.
Can I invite my friend Jessica David to come on forward? We wanted to start our day making a connection with our online companion community. Jessica and our friend Peterson Toscano have been hosting our online companions, and I wanted to give Jessica a moment just to let you know a little about who they are and what that time has been like. Jessica is, as you can see here, as a real person. She has been hanging out in a bedroom down the hall with our online companions.
Thanks, Nicole. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here in all the ways and bring greetings from our online companions world. We may even be able to glimpse them. I'm not sure if that's possible. Yay! Oh, you don't need to see me. But we have a wonderful, amazing just really special group of people who have joined us online through yesterday, a very long all day, starting at 10 in the morning, and we went through 8 o'clock at night. Our online companions were so in love with the stories that were told. So thank you to our storytellers. They had a chance to have a little bit of one-on-one or one-on-three time with Sarah and Cheryl and Alan afterwards. Had a lot of questions about the storytelling, story crafting experience. We had a sort of a tiny desk concert. Folks know tiny desk concerts from NPR. We had a tiny hotel room concert with Fred and Leon, which was amazing. Just really, really special. And the videos are available, and I highly recommend you're all going to want to watch that. So we have folks joining us from as far as South Africa. We have Californians. We have Kentuckians, folks from Kentucky. You're going to hear this morning from one of the storytellers is actually an online companion, Tawny, who has an amazing story to tell and is a great person. So I think they're all going to give an enthusiastic hello. We practiced this to you all. And thank you for being such wonderful hosts. Thank you to the BTS team for bringing this group together and letting us create such a wonderful community. You all want to say hi?
Can you hear us? No, they can't hear us.
Friends, online companions, we totally could hear you. I don't know if you're back to being able to hear us. Can you hear me? Woohoo! Okay, people in the room, could you join me in saying peace be with you to our online companions? 1, 2, 3, peace. All right, thank you. We are perhaps always like just a little more than what might be at the surface of appearance. So even for this gathering, we are indeed more than what we might first appear. So thank you, online companions. Thank you, tech friends, for making that possible. We'll have another moment of tech magic for a storyteller. And here's Alan to introduce today's storytellers.
Good morning, friends. Who's ready to hear another story? Woo! All right. So first up is Kate Andre. Come on up, Kate. Kate is pastor of the Mennonite Congregation of Boston. And we first met Kate and a team from her church during our Claiming Your Call for a Climate Changed World learning community in June of 2024. Also a chaplain at Harvard, and she's just starting a PhD program in religion and education at Boston College. And somehow she found time to prepare a story. So thanks, Kate.
It was a rainy April day, Earth Day in Watertown, Massachusetts. I was gathered with members of my Mennonite congregation by the Charles River. My child was sporting a bright green rain slicker, super pumped about what we were up to. With the local congressman, we were gathering trash from the riverbanks. And every time my kid picked something up, he'd shout to our congregation's only teenager, "Look, Sam, I found a cigarette butt," or whatever. It felt good to be outside, do something concrete, get some fresh air. Good to look back along the path we had trod together with our plastic gloves and garbage bags. Afterwards, we gathered in front of the boathouse for a triumphant photo, and then we moved right along with our days, carrying a communal sense of joy, having done our little part on Earth Day to protect the planet. But if I'm being honest, it was surprising for me to be doing a river cleanup at all. When I was a kid, I didn't really like the environment. My sister and I lived in a rural farmhouse outside Dayton, Ohio for a time. We'd go out into the yard and rake big piles of leaves and play together because, you know, what else were we going to do as 5-year-olds in a rural farmhouse outside Dayton, Ohio? My sister was perfectly content to be outside all day making mud pies and becoming just a delightful mess of a person. But I would run into the house every few minutes and say, "Mommy, I'm dirty." I didn't like being outside. I didn't like bugs. I didn't like getting hot in the sunshine. I didn't like being out of control of my environment. Later, we moved to Boulder, Colorado while I was in high school. People come there from all over the world to enjoy the beautiful foothills of the Rocky Mountains. But I spent those years in a dark theater, creating stories about the human condition, because that's what I liked. Totally insulated from the more than human world. I knew I was supposed to care about the environment. Reduce, reuse, recycle was a really big thing in the early 90s. I watched Captain Planet. I saw An Inconvenient Truth. Once, when I was in 2nd grade, I was part of a skit for Parents' Night. I played a grandmother talking to her future grandkids about how it used to be so nice when we could go outside and there was clean water and fresh air to breathe. It was a surprisingly apocalyptic, dark skit for 2nd grade. Suffice it to say, I had for a long time a personal aversion to being outside. But then I met my husband, who teaches biology and environmental science. And my sister became an environmental lawyer with the DOJ. She was the youngest litigator on the Deepwater Horizon case. And there I was, sandwiched between these two people I deeply love and admire, both of whom were working to heal the world in meaningful, concrete ways. So my world expanded a little bit. I started car camping in national parks. And although I still felt a bit nervous about being outside, I thought perhaps a bear would come while I was sleeping and eat my face. I started to feel a deep sense of spiritual connection to the world beyond the walls of whatever home or school or church space I tended to occupy in my free time. So that's what brought me to the river cleanup. You see, I'm the pastor of the Mennonite Congregation of Boston, and the Mennonite tradition is a historical peace and justice church. Creation care has long been part of Mennonite consciousness, as has living simply so that others may simply live. So after the pandemic, my congregation wanted to put our peace and justice commitments to action in the world, and I, as their pastor, didn't want to be a hypocrite. So, along with 3 congregants, I attended the BTS Center's 2024 retreat, Claiming Your Call for a climate-changed world. Was that what it was called? Yes. Claiming Your Call for a climate-changed world. The retreat sparked something in my congregants and me. We wanted to turn our congregation into a creation care church. But cultural shifts don't happen overnight. It took us almost a year to expand our environmentalism past the river cleanup. Finally, last June, some of us gathered with members of the Mystic River Watershed Association and local ecological activists at Gateway Park. Gateway is a wee natural area sandwiched between a Target and Boston Logan International Airport. Once upon a time, it was a beautiful wetland. Then humans showed up. Now it's a former Monsanto site, terribly polluted. Local environmentalists have been trying to return the area to its former natural glory, and we were there to help make that happen by planting trees. Of course, folks had already planted trees at our volunteer site. The field was dotted with tubes, plastic tubes, and in each tube was a recently planted sapling. So there I am, pastor of this group of volunteers, trying to be an upbeat servant leader. I'm walking from tube to tube, look inside, and more often than not, these trees, planted by people who probably have more experience than I do keeping plants alive, were dead. My friend Carlene was with me, visiting from out of town, and our job was to remove the plastic tubes from the dead trees, pull up the shriveled saplings, and plant a new tree in its place. And hey, we were outside. It felt good to do something with our bodies. Afterwards, we gathered for another triumphant photo, and I put on a happy face, trying to beam Christian hope. But when Carlene and I got back into the car, we looked at each other and we said, what did we just do? And we took a deep sigh and we went home and we ate ice cream. But I couldn't forget those little trees. The questions kept coming. Are our trees gonna live? Did the time we spent planting matter? Or was that just another environmental one-off designed to make us feel like we were doing something meaningful in the face of climate apocalypse? And then I remembered the Charles River cleanup, how it always happens to fall right before the regatta and during the congressman's primary season. Were we trying to help the more than human world, or were we just making nature look pretty for the people who were coming to enjoy the boat race? I realized that I needed some counsel to make sense of it all. So I went to my spiritual director and I told her about the little trees. And she said, you're right. A lot of them died. And a lot of them are probably going to die, the ones you planted. But they won't all die. And every time a little tree makes it, it will put down roots that will help the next one and the next and the next. And maybe we won't live to see this beautiful wetland the environmentalists have envisioned. And maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe it's enough to just do something a little more lovingly, a little more intentionally, a little more actively. So, even if the world isn't transformed yet, I might be transformed from that little girl who really didn't like nature to a not so little human who went from my spiritual direction session and laid down in the grass under this beautiful big oak tree. Maybe somebody planted it, or the wind blew a seed, or a squirrel buried a nut, but for whatever reason, it's here. And it's older than I am. And it's gonna, God willing, live longer than I will. And it has more stories to tell about environmental resilience than I could even imagine.
Thank you, Kate. So our morning is off to a good start. Our next storyteller is David Arfa, who coordinates bereavement services and offers grief counseling at Bay State Hospice, and is also a storyteller and educator deeply rooted in Judaism's storytelling history, heritage, and environmental wisdom. Thank you, David, for sharing your story.
I'm 4 years old, not even in kindergarten yet, and I'm outside alone. It's all right. I'm in my postage stamp of a backyard in suburban Detroit. There's a chain link fence all around it, and I'm there plucking dandelions, the yellow dandelions, killing time. That's when it happens. Right next to me, something long darts right by my leg, and it's moving fast. And I leapt up higher than I've ever leapt in my little body, and when I landed, I'm not scared. I'm exhilarated. Who was that? Where did they live? I was curious and electric, alive. Now, and I could have just thrown up my hands, shrieked, snake, ran inside, never to come out again. Thankfully, that did not happen. Instead, I just knew my neighbors, they were more than the Shermans across the street and the Schwartzes next door. Years later, I'm at the kitchen table poring over college catalogs. I hone in on fisheries and wildlife. I knew I loved birds and trees and was curious how we're all connected. But I heard my parents whispering in the hallway. They were worried. There was the forest, trees, animals. Do Jews do that? And then I got worried. Why am I doing this? I mean, the most common park of my childhood was the ballpark. Ecology was not part of my vocabulary. You know, they're expecting maybe engineering or sales, start a business, not wildlife biology. And when I went to Michigan State, I was totally unprepared. Not in the math and science way, but something else. You know, the first day of Introduction to Fisheries and Wildlife, why did you choose this major? All my classmates, I like to hunt, I like to hunt, I like to hunt, I like to fish, I like to fish, I like to hunt. And me, I like trees and birds. I want to see how we're all connected. You know, and inside, I wonder, maybe I should have chosen computers. But you know, one-stranded classes were incredible because I got to meet all the insects, the birds, the trees, you know, of our local forests and fields. But another strand was introducing me to the ways that the very life support systems of our planet are in danger. And it's serious. And I was overwhelmed. I saw ecological wounds everywhere, you know, in the food that I'm eating, and the things that I'm buying, and the clothes that I'm wearing. I was like paralyzed. Where do I even begin? It was so much. I tried to talk with my parents about it, but it was the 1980s. You know, they trusted politicians. They just said, honey, it'll be all right. They'll take care of it. That's their job. How about, it'll be all right, dear. How about we watch some TV? When I graduated with scholarship in hand, I ran for the hills, the Judean hills in Jerusalem. I joined an Orthodox Jewish community to learn where I could ask big questions, learn about Jewish traditions, and eat some good falafel. My world was turned upside down. See, every Friday, we'd welcome Shabbat, the Sabbath, with this great singing. And there was this one verse in our prayers where we would turn and we would see the Judean hills through the sliding glass doors. And the sun would be touching the hilltops, and we would bow. The rabbis explained, you know, we're bringing to life this verse. It's a royal wedding. Weddings bring hope. Truthfully, it was a little awkward, you know, turning and bowing. It was all very new for me. But after 2 months, I realized this. And so when we would turn, and my classmates, by the way, Zev, Dov, Ari, Alon, Evan, and Adam, which in English is wolf, bear, lion, tree, rock, and earth, we would turn and we would bow, and there would be again the sun kissing the earth. My eyes were opened. I began seeing connections, the natural throughout Jewish tradition. Now when my folks would say, do Jews do nature? I could say, yes, we do. Though I, you know, for many theological reasons, I could not stay in that community. But one simple reason was all that ancient text study we were doing, it was done inside. I wanted to be outside. I wanted direct encounters with the natural world. And so I found a small graduate program called the Audubon Expedition Institute. Has anyone ever heard of it? A few. I get to sleep outside every day. We traveled around in a yellow school bus, and we learned from everyone in every place we visited. This one crisp January morning, our expeditionary group, we rolled into Pacific Grove, California, and we met Ro Vaccaro, our guide to the monarch butterflies. I had no idea what I was in store for. Ro, she described the butterflies as badass. She said they've traveled 2,000 miles to get here over several generations. That's right, several generations. And she led us into a small yard. It's really not much bigger than this room, half filled with eucalyptus trees. And our group, we were stunned in silence. Every tree branch, every tree trunk is just filled with an orange and black blanket of royal monarch butterflies. Our group, we just watched in reverence as the morning sun rose and then kissed the tops of those trees. The first butterflies warmed enough that they could leave their night perch and they began to fly. But the air was still too cold for them. Their wings froze up behind them. They started falling to the ground. Hundreds of butterflies are falling and they're all on the ground. We're shocked, disbelief. What to do? But Ro, she just turns to us and says, "Don't worry. We can help them." And she shows us how to gently scoop up a butterfly. And with the warmth of our breath, and so we're all scooping up butterflies. Until the air is just filled with hundreds, with thousands of butterflies. It was like being inside a colorful snowstorm or a soft cloud. They were above my head, below my hands, to the right of me, to the left of me. One landed on my shoulder. Many flew right into my heart. And I was just left vibrating, fluttering. I was overwhelmed with a sense of awe and wonder. I began to cry. I busied myself with putting away the spotting scope. And I just knew, in that moment, I just knew that every action we take, every step, every wing beat is equally important. And there are great migrations happening everywhere. And even mine. That small boy on a patch of grass waiting, yearning for the return of a snake. And further back to another small boy, my grandfather, on the banks of the Vistula River with his family, ready to leave Warsaw, yearning for a new life in America. They pause at the setting sun, say prayers to remember that the future is always pregnant with possibilities. And that small boy's name was also David Arfa. And even now, I can't help but wonder, with everyone I meet, what migrations have you been on? What happened way back that allowed us to be here together at this time? And what about us right here in this room? What are we cooking up that won't see its fruition until 4 generations into the future? Oh, I wish we could all live long enough to find out.
So good. So good, right? Okay, now we have a special treat. And this is kind of a gift from our online companions, because we really wanted to try to find a way to make this feel reciprocal, you know, that it wasn't just people in the room offering something to the internet, but that it was a two-way, reciprocal, kind of mutual experience. And so we're so grateful that Tawny White said yes to sharing a story from New Jersey.
Hi. Go ahead and get
Texting,
started.
there might be a little lag while they're muting all of us and getting sound from Zoom, but we're going to be patient with that.
Okay, just let me know when you can
Nurse
hear.
who
Yes.
understands nursing as ministry. Tawny is attending to the connection between the health and well-being of the physical body, the human body, with the health and wellness of the earth. Tawny is also a kind of alum of our Eco Preacher program, and this year is serving as one of the Kinship Circle facilitators for this year's Eco Preacher cohort. Tawny, thanks so much for saying yes to this.
Can you all hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know. Can you hear her in the room?
Yes. Go ahead and start. Okay, I'll get started. Good morning, everyone. I am Tawny. I am from southeastern coastal Virginia, in an area that's known as Hampton Roads. More specifically, I am from Brooklyn. And one of the clearest childhood memories that I have is the memory of being hungry. There were plenty of nights that my mom, my sisters, and I would have to share very little just to make sure that we all did get something to eat. A lot of those crisp Virginia mornings, the excitement of going to school was nothing more than about being excited that I was going to get a hot breakfast when I was at school. And so this kind of hunger that you experience that early in life, it teaches you things. It teaches you about resilience. It teaches you about sacrifice. And it also teaches you to be quiet, to act as if you're not hungry or if it doesn't matter at all. And it also evokes a question of how can something as simple and as basic and as sacred as food be out of someone such as a child? I didn't know words like food insecurity or anything like that when I was younger. I just knew that we didn't have much, and neither did a lot of the people in our neighborhoods. The grocery stores, or the decent grocery stores, were on the other side of town. They were far out of the way. If anything came into our neighborhoods, it was either in boxes or it was in cans or it was something that was distributed by the government. And what we would have to do, the government, what they distributed, it was usually along the lines of cheese or rice or maybe some other dried product. Fresh fruits and vegetables were very rare. If they came into our neighborhoods at all, they were expensive for that time period. And usually they were spoiled by the time they got to us. So at least once a month, my mom and my sisters and I, we would have to walk to another challenged area of town for this food distribution from the government. So we would have to walk down historic streets, over a bridge, through traffic just to get to this building. And on the way to the building, I could already see the line was forming out of the door and already wrapped around the building. And this is probably late 70s. Late 70s, early 80s. This was a time where the garments were very culturally prideful. You know, there was patterns and there was colors. Hairstyles were very majestic. Very beautiful little Barbie necklaces at that time. And just how beautiful the people were, it didn't match the reality of the building. And even when I'm young, in my very neurodivergent mind, things make sense. And I knew that the people did not match the place. So even in those like moments, I know just a very historic church in the area. In those moments, I knew that as a child that this is not the way God intended us, that Creator intended us to live. If the earth was full, as I had heard so many times in church, if the earth was full, then why were there so many empty plates? Then why were there so many people in line? And so it just made me think about and have concern about dignity and about fairness. And if how come some people get to feast?
Attention staff,
I'm
today
sorry.
the last day to complete a survey. It is the last day.
I do. I was just questioning that as I was just wondering, any question if there's full, then why are so many people hungry? And where is the fairness in that? And where is the dignity in that? And so it wasn't until I became an adult that I started wanting to improve my own health. And so I started going and looking into plant-based living, plant-based eating, and growing my own produce because I read so much that if you want to improve your health, if you want those fresh fruits and vegetables, then you can actually take hold of that and grow them yourself. So being recent at the University of YouTube, I've been in my backyard with bags with the cutest little little boots because I decided I don't like gardening, but if I was going to do it, then I was going to look cute doing it. And so one day I was just back there in my backyard and nothing was happening. And I'm checking, if you initially start gardening, then that's when you start kind of stalking your garden every day just to see if there's anything going on. So someone had told me that if you speak to your plants, and they will start producing. So I was in my backyard one day and I just broke out into the theme song from Flashdance. I have no idea why. It was the first thing that came to my mind, but I was in full in my backyard. It was great. But right in that moment, and here's something that I did mention about when I was a child, I would always go outside to just for the peaceful nature of it, to be still, to come outside just for a moment. I was definitely a nature girl. So I would climb up in the tree, I would listen to the birds, I would watch the leaves as they dance in the wind. I love having the sun on my skin. I would look up into the sky and watch the clouds fall to nowhere. And I often looked at the sky upward and I prayed to a God that I knew existed just beyond. So this particular day that I was sitting in my garden and I'm singing, and something stopped me right in my tracks because sprouts that started to come up. And something inside of my head clicked right then that every time I had been outside before, it was like an upward focus. I was looking up at the trees and the clouds and the birds and everything. But those shoots, I realized that I was witnessing a miracle, that the answer to my prayers was beneath my feet. That what God was doing, what He showed me in that moment, that the abundance that He had promised me was actually in the soil. And so I was so excited about that. And so I continued to sing to my plants. I continued to water and weed and water and weed. And eventually I did start to get a harvest. So I got everyone in my house involved in working outside in the garden and eating some of the things that I had grown. My son came in the house one day, and he was a little guy at the time. My son came in the house one day, handful of jalapeno peppers, and he was just grinning ear to ear. And he asked if we could make jalapeno poppers. And absolutely. But he was just so excited about his harvest, about going into the backyard and picking his own peppers. And he was standing there as if he had a handful of gold. And you know what? He did. It wasn't just about food, it was about the empowerment of it. And so I decided that I wanted to just kind of share that joy with other people. And there's social media. People use social media for all kinds of things. I use it myself. I started putting things that I had grown in my garden or that I had cooked online. And you know how not YouTube, I'm sorry, you know how social media goes. Once you get like a couple of likes on a post or something, now you feel like a social media phenom, a couple more likes, and now you've got to control the press. I so love that about social media, that we can all just be rock stars in our own right. But I started posting the things that I was getting out of my garden, and little by little, I was getting direct messages. I was getting, little sidebars about, what is that? Did you grow that yourself? Where did you get that from? And so there was this one particular woman, and I identified with her so much. She said that she also wanted to start growing because her interest was her health, the same way that I got into it. But another thing that I didn't mention about being a nature girl, as I describe myself, is that as much as I love nature, being outside, I was taken to my garden. I like swimming, camping, hiking. At one point in time, I really did love fishing. But at the same time, I was someone who didn't like to get dirty. And this is what this young lady was also expressing to me too. We were from similar backgrounds. And when you are from certain backgrounds or grew up in certain neighborhoods or just certain generational things, being soiled is just not an option. You have that maternal voice in your head that you remember, speaking to you out the kitchen window to stay out of the dirt and to don't get dirty. And so that kind of stays with you. And so she expressed the same things, but because she also wanted to get out of that, to break out of that. And that's also something that's kind of generational. So we knew we weren't going to break it right then, but we decided to start small. So I introduced her to countertop gardening and countertop gardening, and then the little garden kits. You can just do like a little bit at a time. So I worked with her to decide what she liked, what she didn't like, what she had time, attention, energy, and effort for. So she eventually did her herbs on the counter, and she would do some where she called it time. I told her, if there's ever a time where it's not growing the way she like, just let me know because I got a song for you. We'll do that together. But she did eventually move to her patio where she did potatoes and carrots in containers. And now this next spring, she is super excited about moving to her backyard and planting stuff in the ground. What we had to do is that we had to change the mindset about it, that it isn't dirt. We changed it around to say soil. You have to rename it and reclaim it. So this spring, she's going to be planting her first garden in the soil, and I'm so excited for her. So that's kind of what I do, is that through my own experiences and some experiences that I've been able to share with others, is that I talk to churches, I talk to patients, I talk to different random people online about how they can empower themselves with starting their own garden and reconnecting with the earth, and how they want to do that and how they choose to do that for the community. And I'm more to speak to people, the more that people are starting to get into environmental justice and ways that they can take control over their own communities. And I've learned, and this is where I learned what food sovereignty means. Food sovereignty isn't just about the food. It's about who grows it, where it comes from, who controls it, and who benefits from it. And it just makes me smile to know that that little girl that once reached out for food is helping people to grow their own. So my journey and my life story isn't necessarily so much about scarcity to abundance, but it's about justice, fairness, and hope. So thank you so much for listening.
Wow, Tani, I don't know if you can hear what's happening in the room, but there's a lot of applause for you. And we're sending love in your direction.
Thank you.
That was really cool. And I love seeing all the little
Thanks.
heart emojis and everything going up the screen from the online companions with whom we are so deeply connected, even across time and space. So at this point, we're going to say farewell to our online companions. We're going to be moving into a time of some conversation around tables with Cheryl and other things. So, and online companions are going to kind of do their own thing as well. Yep, and Fred's going to be in the middle. Online companions, we wish you blessings on this next part of your day. We have one more short plenary session at 3 o'clock, and we'll.
Connie, thank you.
Wow.
Wow, how are you feeling after that? It's beautiful.
That was
I don't
amazing.
hear anything.
Oh, you don't hear anything.
I can hear you now. I can hear you
Okay,
now.
great. How are you feeling? That was beautiful.
Okay, that didn't go as planned, but I'm glad I finished it. But yeah, I'm sorry. There's, I forgot there's, overhead things happening here.
No, it was
No,
wonderful. And folks here were super engaged. I was getting messages from in the room, and people were laughing and cheering throughout the story.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
hard
well,
to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
Tani
didn't know
Anybody have any responses for Tani? It's a big thing. She even said herself she's not a public speaker. What stood out for you? What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Well, I will say what stood out for me is the social media piece. I mean, I've become so cynical about social media, you know, and all the bad ways, but you just, it was so inspiring how you're using it to connect with people individually and work with them, you know, one by one. Just that was just beautiful. Ooh, Susan Heimel.
I have voice, but I have no video
I,
of me. I can't turn it back on.
all right. Well, I'm going to ask
We'll
you to
work on
start.
that.
But
I'm going to
I
send you
still
a
have,
little message.
I learned two incredible things with what she was saying. I did not know that one could be in the Echo Preacher group if you didn't have an MDiv or were not an actual minister. In addition to that, my own background from 4-H and living in the country and driving a bush hog even. And my mother as a home economist, and what I do in terms of container gardening with patio tomatoes for both summer and winter. I mean, wherever you are, Tawny, I would love to take a train to just visit with you, share my own this kinds of stuff that we do with such a high poverty level. And I work with an interfaith community where 50 out of 52 weeks, we serve lunch to the second in a neighborhood, in a recreation park. And it's the second oldest place in Baton Rouge where African Americans own homes. It's where Habitat for Humanity began here.
Lovely.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you,
Well,
Susan.
Tawny, I agree with Jessica about the social media, that you use it so brilliantly to speak to people within your sphere of influence, and then you build from there, and that's a really powerful way. And I encourage people, whatever you're doing, do it publicly. Blow your horn. Don't hide it under a bushel. Let people see what you're doing. And the second thing I loved is how you reframed for us like dirt and soil, right?
Yes.
And like you named something that I actually never noticed before, but it's true. Like this idea that you're getting yourself dirty is a bad thing, and reframing it. Beautiful. Well done. Thank you. Jim.
Your focus on food is so important and so basic and so overlooked. I'm educated in socio-environmental systems and, spent my life working on those things. And we talk about the rainforest, we talk about the whales and, all those kind of things, and forget that our main relationship with Earth is feeding ourselves. That's the most basic thing for us to stay alive. And it's one of the biggest impacts, if not maybe the biggest impact that we have on natural systems. So I love the fact that you're really bringing out the importance of food, because it can branch off into all kinds of other things. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so true. Priscilla, did you want to jump in?
So I was really touched deeply when you were talking about looking forward to going to school to have a hot meal. But when you said that you learn to be silent or to be quiet and not to make any ripples or not to be seen, that was like devastating to hear that. And so thank you for sharing that truth. I'm watching gardening videos all the time, but I don't do anything about it. The whole thing about container gardening, one of the ones that I watched was actually growing potatoes in a big bucket. And
Sure.
then it's brilliant. and it's right there, you know. So thank you for remotivating me. But your words were very important. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Mary.
Yeah, I echo what Priscilla just said. But I also really appreciated, Tony, your the sense of the power that gardening has. And I've been doing it for a long time, but my sister out in Washington, his she has lost a great deal of her sight. She can't drive, she can't work. But she started gardening and she's just loving it. She's way beyond me at this point. And the herbs that she grows, and then she takes them in and she dries stuff and she cooks with them, and she and other vegetables too. And there's always gardening reports in our phone calls. And I'm just so grateful that she has that when she hasn't got a lot of other things. So the sense that we can be outside, we can be working in the soil. That's a really important thing. We can be working in the soil and we can be growing food, and just it's an amazing power that that you lifted up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Indeed, that was really well said. Mark.
Thanks. Good morning. Tony, appreciate your story that you shared with us. Peterson named something that struck me, bearing our light. And, you know, the term that's used today is influencer. And, you know, I see your role certainly fulfilling that term, you know, in a very powerful way, but that's something that we can each do in our own way. I'm not so much of an online person, but there are spheres of influence that we all share, that we can bring our story and lift up our light in that way. Soil also stuck out to me because I live in northern New England. Raking leaves at this time of year is a common and frequent activity. And while my partner and I were doing that in the front lawn yesterday afternoon, our neighbor came over, 8-year-old Emma, and she came with a rake, which so impressed me. I don't know if in my childhood I'd be that proactive to join a neighbor in raking leaves in the front yard. But we made these big piles, and we have these scoop hands that take up the leaves, put them in the wheelbarrow, and I bring them to the edge of the yard where there's a line of trees. And she liked to help me do that part too. And I said, what we're doing here is creating soil, because these leaves will, in the process of time, may take years, become soil that's going to help plants to grow. So leaves falling from trees will create maybe the environment for new trees. She liked that idea.
That's lovely. What a lovely story. Tony, I know you're at work, and so I'm very conscious that you may need to leave us. But we're so grateful.
Yeah, I do. We're peeking in the window here.
I bet. Thank you.
Thank you
I'm
so much
grateful.
for
Again, I'm glad that I was activated and appreciate for and where I being obedient, where I believe God is telling me to go. So I appreciate that. Appreciate all the comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And could you
Excellent.
put in the chat where people can find you if they want to follow you? Is there a particular account you want people to follow you
I don't
at?
hear you, Peterson.
Now can you hear me?
me?
Oh yes, I just couldn't hear Peterson speaking.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, absolutely.
Great. Could you put in the chat any social media where people can follow you?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tawny.
Thank you.
Yes, you have a whole group of new fans now that I'm
Yeah,
sure will
that's
be
right.
eagerly following you.
We're waiting for
Maybe
the
you can
book and
help
the
some
movie.
of us. Yeah, we're gonna sing to our plants. Oh, Well, thank
I have
you.
no idea why that song, that was, I don't know even where that song came from. It just did. So that's just the song that I use now.
Love it. All right. Wow. Well, while Tawny is doing that, thank you all so much for being here with us this morning. Three amazing stories, Peterson.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And how lovely that we got to contribute something to the main group.
Although really Tawny did all the work. I mean,
Well, I
the
know.
rest of us were good, but
We turned off our cameras. We helped out.
yes, thank you all for that too. All right.
Yeah, and Jim had a good suggestion that maybe Tawny should have turned off her camera too to get bandwidth, but I'm sure people wanted to see her as well.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about food justice and you're interested in food issues, I did an episode recently about food justice, and I had a couple of interesting guests on there, including Derek Weston, who's from Creation Care Justice, and Joelle Novi, who's with the Interfaith Power and Light in the DC area. She's Jewish, he's Christian, and they talk about food justice and also like very practical campaigns to engage their neighbors. So I'm going to put that in the chat and I'll also put in the resource page that we've created. It's my podcast called Bubble and Squeak, and the title of the episode is called Creation Groaning.
And that sounds great. Thank you, Peterson. We will also put in our resource page Tawny's Instagram handle, Earthy Vegan. Thank you for sharing that. We'll make sure everybody has that, including all of the in-person attendees, because I know they will want that. All right, we are going to take a few minutes to just have some conversation around, now that we've heard 7 stories from our BTS community, about how we might think about our own storytelling and sourcing and telling stories from our own experience. So we have 3 questions that we're going to offer. These are the same questions that the larger group is discussing at their tables. We can stay as a full group. Peterson, do you think does that sound okay with you?
We could get up to the group. Would you like to have one big group conversation or smaller groups of say 3 and 4 so more people have a chance? So who wants a whole group conversation? Put your thumbs up or hands up. And who would like to go into small groups? All right. All right, we could put 3 folks in a small group if you like, and everybody else can stay out here, or we can stay out here. Looked like Chad, you were like kind of on the fence with that one. All right, well, let's start in the full group, and we could then move into smaller groups. It seems like most people want to be in the whole group.
All right. Well, yeah, just if folks want to go off into a small group, just let us know. Peterson can somehow magically make that happen. Right, Peterson? Yeah. So our first question, I'm going to put it in the chat, and this is really around stories of ecological conversion. So thinking about specific personal experiences that you've had that awakened you to our independence with the natural world. Was there a defining moment that really shifted your concern about climate change into urgency and action? Was there a spiritual transformation along that journey? So, this morning I keep thinking back to the butterflies, and we heard from David about that amazing experience with the butterflies. Yesterday we heard about the loons. Was there anyone here have any specific personal experiences that you would really cite as waking you up or moving you along on your journey? Peterson, anything you would point to?
I actually was busy setting up a room for Chad, Jim, and Mark to go into. Anybody else want to go into that small room that I'm creating? Susan, okay, let's get you in there.
Susan, did you want to go into the small room or were you
Yes.
raising your hand to talk?
No, it's a small room.
Okay, I'm sending you off.
Oh, there's two Susans. I was confused.
Susan Heimel. Yes,
Email. Yeah.
Hemel.
Hemel.
All right, they should be going. There, let's see if that works. Okay, and say your prompt again there, Jessica, because I was distracted.
Sure. Specific personal experiences that awakened you to independence with the natural world. So any stories of ecological awakening, spiritual transformation. And Susan M, I'm not going to, I don't want to mispronounce your name, but you've got your hand up. So you have a story to share with us. And then Chad.
Thank you. Most people call me Sue.
Sue.
And
Thank you.
I think something that really spurred me along in my commitment happened after we had the January storms in Maine a couple of years ago with the high winds and high surf. And I went out to Popham Beach one day, and just to see what had happened to that beach, where the sand dunes had been ripped away by the high water, and the whole way the ocean approached the shore had changed dramatically. It wasn't the Popham I was used to. And it just made me so sad. And to think that, you know, these severe storms are going to be happening more and more frequently unless we really take action. So that's kind of what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's so powerful to actually see the change happen in a place that you know so well. Chad, how about you?
I sometimes I have a hard time with like thinking of an exact moment. I grew up on in northern Illinois on a farm, and I have a hard time understanding how people haven't noticed climate change. Especially people my age and older, haven't noticed the difference. It's just something that is very obvious in the way that the seasons are different now. But I think, growing up on a farm, everything is dependent on the climate. And, the storms get more and more violent as you get older. And as the years go on, and farmers have to deal with loss and everything. And then you see the way it affects the more than human world. I think about going with my parents every 4th of July to go pick black raspberries in our woods on the other side of the field. And how there's just it's different now. Like you can't get them. The Japanese beetles have eaten them all by the time you get there, or um, the season hasn't really worked in their favor. Um, but I think positive stories I can think of. There's this retreat center in Seattle or near like Spokane, Washington, called Holden Village. It's a Lutheran retreat center. It's up in the mountains. And I went up there one summer after in the midst of college, and spent 2 weeks there. Or maybe it was 3. I don't know. It's been a while. But just being in that mountain region, completely disconnected from the grid, uh, just in a remote place, stumbling upon black bears on long hikes in the mountains into these pristine lakes in the mountains. Just being that far removed from society was just one of those moments that really defined my dependence and my love of creation and wanting that to be a big part of me. So
It's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. As you also bring up like the element of time to it too. It's not always a sudden, it's not like a
yeah,
moment of transformation.
yeah.
Thank you. That's a great point. Jerry.
Well, I've always loved the outdoors. Excuse me. But my family never went camping as a child. And things were, more domestic where we were. And Jim and I married in March. He was working on a master's degree. His research was to be done on the north rim of Grand Canyon. And I had made one trip west, but didn't know much about it. So this was all new. And to a new bride, 22-year-old, I was a little bit concerned, but we got there, and here we are at 9,000 feet. There's this huge, major thunderstorm, lightning, and carrying on. My migraine just went boom. And it was a horrible night. I was thinking, this is not going to be a good experience. Well, moving 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, we were going out into the meadows where he was testing ponds to see the chemical content of them, how they had changed through the day it's called the diurnal cycle. And here we are in the middle of this pristine North Rim meadow. It is absolutely gorgeous. And I hear this scream, and I thought, oh no, we're dead. It was a mountain lion somewhere in the forest. And when I realized what it was, it really wasn't going to come get me. I was okay. And this experience of being in nature, so fully immersed, we'd go out at sunrise and sunset, which are the most beautiful times of day anyway. And as the summer progressed, we realized our church was a big rock. And we would go sit on that big rock on the side of one of the side canyons, Transept Canyon, and just sit there. We might not talk. We might not read anything. No scripture, just being there, holding that space, filled with light, filled with this immense vision of a canyon that was so jaw-dropping that we just could barely breathe. The beauty of it and the spirituality and the light was phenomenal. And I have never forgotten that and never will. Thank you.
Wow, I have goosebumps. Thank you for that, Sherry. What a story. It's beautiful. I love the idea of a church as a rock as church. Charlene.
When I was 9 or 10, my family was at church camp. So this is in Illinois. And if you know most of Illinois, it's like flat as a pancake. But this church camp, ironically, is down in a valley that must have been dug out by a creek bed or something. And it has a giant hill. So in Illinois, giant hills are relative compared to California. But it was this huge hill. And I was 9, and for some reason, I decided to walk to the top of the hill. And at the top of the hill is the clearing where you could have worship, and there's like an altar. But being a preacher's kid, you don't normally do. Well, I was the good preacher's kid, not the rebellious one. So I wouldn't normally crawl on top of the altar, although I do now to decorate. But back then, I wouldn't have crawled on top of it. And I crawled up on this big altar, stone altar with the cross. And at that moment, now I would describe it as a light enlightenment experience. At that moment, for me, it was God touched me. And I could see every particle of sunlight that was beaming through, every flower was sparkling. I just knew that God was real and true and with me, and I could see forever. Now, it's Illinois, and so my little kid brain thought, yeah, of course I can see forever. It's flat as a pancake. You can see forever. And that experience for the longest time was just God is real for me. And then in college, I went back and was working at church camp. And I was up there at the altar again, and I was like, there's trees everywhere. It's a valley. You can't see anything. And so I had to figure out what it meant that I was to look out at the whole world and see it, and what was my role with that in the entire earth. So sort of been became political, did poli-sci for 10 years, and then went into ministry. And my call when I was coming out of it was, how was I going to talk about the earth with people? How was I going to change it? So it was that experience of God being just present in every little speck of light and beauty that set me on the path.
Oh, these stories are amazing. What I mean, you all should have been storytellers on the big stage, because these are just such amazing stories. I will always now think of Charlene crawling on the altar. Okay, Peterson and Priscilla, I'm also going to paste in, we have another prompt, slightly different kind of way of thinking about it. So I'm going to put that into the chat just to get you all thinking. But Peterson, tell us your story.
Well, I decided to tell my story because it's so different from everybody else's. I mean, I'm a definite outlier when it comes to these spaces, in that I don't feel I've ever had an ecological conversion. I'm not in climate change for the environment in this, as in the ecological world. Not that I don't care about those things, but I am wired completely differently. Like, I was struck by how some people said the stories they heard yesterday made them, kind of tear up, especially talking about the natural world. I don't have that experience with the natural world. I love the natural world. I enjoy it as much as I enjoy an art museum or a good film. It's, aesthetically pleasing, and it is, it revives me. But for me, it's always been about social justice. And I think because I grew up in the countryside in upstate New York in the Catskill Mountains, and I very much enjoyed nature and all. But then, as a gay man, I fled that space because for a lot of us, those are not safe spaces, those rural places. Uh, and now I'm in a rural place with my partner, and the world's a little bit different. And but there's parts of this area I won't go carefree always. Camping can be challenging as a gay couple because a campground is a replica of suburbia, and you don't know who your neighbors are suddenly, and you don't know if they are offended by a gay couple. So there's an extra layer of tension that exists for me in rural spaces. And I really am a city person. I love cities, and I love seeing nature in cities. I love the parks in New York City. My goodness, they've done extraordinary things there. But what moved me to get involved with climate change was about the injustices that were affecting people. And, I know that people here care about this as well, um, about how some people are affected by climate change more than others. Some are protected for more than others. And the disparity, the unfairness, it's just like kind of that's what moves my heart. And that's what motivates me to do this work. And it's always a challenge because whenever I do a video for the BTS Center, they're always like, could you put more nature in it? Could you put more animals? And I'm like, yes, but not everyone's moved by that. And sometimes I think people can get frustrated because they're sharing why they care about this from an environmental point of view, and they get this sort of like, yeah, okay. And it's that it doesn't move some of us in the same way. So for me, it really was about finding out how climate change is just racist and sexist and classist and homophobic because our world is. And and climate change magnifies those existing disparities and discriminations. And that makes me angry, and it makes me curious, and it definitely engages me to do this work.
That's such an important perspective. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, everybody comes to the work differently. Priscilla, how about you?
Thank you, Peterson, for sharing that reality that for a lot of people, being in the woods or whatever is totally not safe. And so what was one person's bliss is somebody else's terror. And certainly that's an issue in Maine. Um, the church where I go, we have an outdoor environmental ministry, and that same forest chapel that many of us embrace can be a scary place for somebody else, and especially a lot of people who are immigrants coming in from mostly from Africa and some from South America, that their context is just so different, and we've got to be very sensitive to that. So thank you for what you shared. Yesterday, I love the story about the loon and the presenters being transformed in that moment, but then that beautiful prayer of, dear God, help me be more like a loon. I love that. And I was thinking back, and I realized as I was thinking, this is 50 years ago when I was in my 20s. I went on a whale watch off of Cape Cod, and it was kind of in the early days of whale watching. And so we're all, mobbed on this top deck. And at one point, there was a mother and baby humpback whale sort of in the distance, and everybody had gone to one side of the boat, and the boat sort of tipping over because of the weight of everybody on one side. And so I decided to go over just by myself on the other side of the boat, and I'm just standing there at the rail. And all of a sudden, the mother humpback surfaced probably 5 feet from where I was standing. And what I could see was her eye, her eye on one side. And what just blew my mind was I was looking at her, but guess what? She was looking at me. And there was a sense of, how could you say curiosity? But she was looking back. And in that moment, I felt that there was somebody on the other side, under the water, who was a sentient being, and we have got to take that seriously and embrace it and celebrate it. So like yesterday, the humpback whale was my moment, and just the beginning. 50 years later, I just can't believe it. So thank you.
Wow. Whales, I feel like, are in particular, they just carry like a wisdom. I've always felt that way about elephants. When I was young, my parents took me to the circus, and I turned into like an elephant rights activist. There's not a lot of elephants in the small town where I grew up, and I always felt that way about them too. Like they have there's like an ancient wisdom to them. They're
And
very
also,
special.
the octopi or octopuses, that
Yes.
we are not even scratching the surface. And if an octopus has 8 brains, a brain in each of its legs, oh my God, what does this mean? And here once I got to go to Spain, and here people are eating octopuses left and right. Anyway, I'm ranting.
Chuck, I thought I saw your hand go up momentarily. And speaking of elephants, P and D actually have a lot of elephants in their neighborhood. So you can see them when you visit them. Chuck.
Yeah, I have a story. It's a story paired with another story. The first one you may have heard about the man walking down the beach, and he saw thousands upon thousands of starfish that had washed ashore. And he started picking them up and throwing them into the water. And somebody said, "You're crazy. You could spend a lifetime and you still wouldn't get all the starfish back in the water." And he picked up one. He wasn't deterred, and he said, "It matters to this one." Threw it in the water. Well, I bought a house recently, and my first house, and it was just all grass, the yard. And I was determined not to keep it that way. So I put down patches of cardboard mulch on top. It killed the grass, and the mulch and the cardboard started forming good soil. And I planted some coneflowers. And then I noticed a bee coming to the flower for food. And I thought, it matters to this bee what I did. And if I hadn't done all that work and planted the flowers, one bee might not have survived. It might not have found food in this neighborhood that I live in. Well, to me, what it also said to me is that, I haven't solved the climate crisis, but what I did with just that little bit of effort, it mattered somewhere. It mattered to a bee. And it went further probably because perhaps that bee was adding honey to somebody's breakfast toast. So I think the little things we do matter, even if we don't change the entire picture.
Yes, for sure. That's a lovely story. I love that connection. Other folks who I did paste the last two prompts in the chat just because these stories are so great and wonderful, and I think they cross over. But the other two prompts were around courage and perseverance. So encountering challenges, and I think certainly that has come up. And then stories of leadership or communal embodiment. So thinking about the individual and the collective or collaborative um, efforts. And if anyone has stories, as their spiritual community embraced, like, was it Kate this morning? Yes, Kate from the Mennonite Church in Boston, who mentioned her congregation's sort of journey, both her own and the congregation's journey. We have a few more minutes if anyone has any other. Does anyone else have a mountain lion story? I feel like that's the theme of the. No, which is okay too. Oh, Evelyn.
So I resonate with that last question too about spiritual community. I moved to a community 15 years ago. It's for retired United Methodist pastors and their partners. So we put together just a sort of 4 pages of what do we expect from one another as living in community. The interesting thing is there's practically nothing about God. There's nothing about God in there. There's nothing about theology. But what held us together then, and this is 15 years later, is our commitment, our ecological commitment, our environmental commitment. And so we became really intentional about what we planted. It needed to be native. What we did in terms of gathering in a community building where, people were, it's small stuff, but it's, using paper plates and using napkins. And so we've changed that. But in the midst of that, because we live on the ocean and we live near a wonderful reserve, Lodholm, at Wells Reserve, many of us volunteer there. One of the things that I do is I tell people it's measuring the sand of the beach each month. But I'm part of a small group that every month we literally measure where the sand is, where the dunes are. And people have been doing this for 25 years from northern Maine to Florida. And that goes into a registry, a national registry. So we get to see how climate action or climate change is significantly what's happening on the East Coast. So anyway, it's not a spiritual community I'm in, but it's a neighborhood. And it's the first time I've ever lived in a neighborhood where any one of us could go out and say, I need to do such and such, or we want to do a cooperative garden. And, 8 or 10 or 12 people or 15 people will come together to do something. So that's a real blessing. And it not only is a blessing to me in terms of living with folks like that, but it also encourages me daily to do something. So that's my spiritual community story.
That's beautiful. I love those kinds of citizen scientists projects, especially like you said, it's 25 years, like that sense of continuity. I'm going to paste in the chat. There's a intentional community in Portland, Oregon that I watched this. I think on their website they have a really great film that a documentarian did about it, and it's one of those like I don't know, like 70s style apartment buildings, like just a bunch of blocks, like two-story, and it had a bunch of parking lot. And I was thinking of this when Chuck told the story about the grass. They like tore up the parking lot. They built this amazing garden. They have this composting operation that is like, I won't, no spoilers, but I highly recommend that video. I think for me, it was like one of the most like action it like put me on a path that I hadn't been on before. So all of you are making me think of that. I'll put that in our resource document too. Mary, how about you?
Yeah, I am just blown away by all these stories and the honesty um, that they're being told with this. It's just really, it's really inspiring. It's really helpful. So thank you to all of you. Uh, yeah, Evelyn, two things, Evelyn. One is any way we could get that document that you your community live by, because they sound like really good, doable um, of living in a church or in a neighborhood or however. So if that's available, that would be really wonderful to have. And you also reminded me with your talking about the sand and your measurements. My mother, when she retired to Florida, they lived on the beach, and one of the things that she did was go out and help with the sea turtle nesting and marking the nests. And I know other people also have those kinds of experiences and stories, but she hadn't ever been a particularly a person of nature, and yet here she was doing this really cool thing for the turtles, and that was inspiring. But I also wanted to say indigenous wisdom has been really important for me. I read Braiding Sweetgrass a number of years ago, and that was just a transformative book. And the values of the indigenous people is just, I just keep trying to understand more and recognize where I can be a part of that. You know, I'm one of the colonists, but I don't want to live my life like that. So I just think that those values have such richness and such help for us. So I really like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I love the story of your mom. Also, shout out to Robin Wall Kimmerer's latest book, The Serviceberry. Have folks read that? Uh, yeah. Yeah, I think I mentioned I come from more of a background working in economic development and alternatives to capitalism. And that book, it's a short little book, but super inspiring
Really,
around, again, yeah, it's just beautiful.
yeah.
Okay, Sue, and I think Sue might be our final comment before we take a break.
Mine might be a sort of negative thing with this spiritual community. But, I learned about rainforests and ecological things in college, really, and so really felt called to teach the next generation to take better care of the earth. That was like my original calling. And then when I went to a new faith community and I got so involved with their camp ministry, and it was just really inspiring to me. And I was like, oh, we're teaching the young people to take care of the earth here. That's great. But then when we went to an annual conference once and we wanted to make a statement about creation care, and this was like, I don't know, right back when Trump first started, I think, and a lot of disinformation when started going out there. So a lot of people, they wouldn't vote it in, and we needed 2/3 and it didn't get voted in. And I like had a faith crisis. Like, I must be in the wrong place. These people don't care. And I saw one of the men who started his own kind of nonprofit going overseas and helping all kinds of climate change things. So I saw him in the hallway and I'm like, what are we going to do? These people don't get it. We got to help change their mind because we need to do this. And he said, I don't have time for them. I'm just going to keep going and doing what God wants me to do, and that really just hit home to me. So, and then part of my call as I got my MDiv was to teach the church to take better care of the earth. So it's just, and I'm in a community now that really does value that. And I mean, I said, what are we doing? Because we do brother in disaster ministries all over the place. And that was another thing I did in there. And I said, we're taking care of people from climate change events. We're teaching the young people to take care of the earth. And yet we don't want to take a stand on it. What is that? And we do have parts of our denomination that do, but so I just feel called to be part of that.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm so glad we had this like sharing session. We got to tell some of our own stories as well. We're going to give you a break. We need a break. Stretch, move your bodies. I have to move my back. I'm sorry if you couldn't turn your camera on. I turned it off, some of them, because when Tawny was speaking, but I think I gave you access again. Thank you all. Have a good break. We'll see you at the top of the hour in 30 minutes. I think that's it. Everything go all right in the small groups? Excellent. Great. Great morning. Thank you so much. See you in 30 minutes.